May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Kiku Audio podcast. I'm DC, Poobah of Kiku Audio and Kiku Archives, doing our bit to help preserve the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths cross his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic hardship, and able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today we have a guest, Marsha Angus, and Marsha is an analyst, a therapist. She's the therapist of the Zennies, but she'll talk about that. I'm going to read you something on her at the LZTA site, which is the Lay Zen Teachers Association. And it says, Marsha Angus, Dining Genyaku, great patience, inconceivable leap. Lay entrusted Soto Zen teacher. Organization, San Francisco Zen Center and Dragon's Leap Zen Center. Lineage, Soto Zen Shunryu Suzuki Roshi. Marsha Angus received lay ordination in 1979 from Richard Baker Roshi, was shuso at SFZC in 2007 and received lay entrustment in 2010 from Dairyu Michael Wenger. She started practicing at Green Gulch Farm in 1975. She has had a private psychotherapy practice for over 40 years. She leads small meditation study groups in Mill Valley and Tiburon. She's taught classes at the SFZC on the Heart Sutra, the Four Noble Truths, and co-taught the first year long establishing the path of practice for lay practitioners. She's a member of a Dharma group of priests and lay practitioners that meets monthly. She lives in Mill Valley with her partner, Kiku Christina Lehnherr, who is a Soto Zen priest and teacher, former abbot of Zen Center, too, and currently abiding abbess of SFZC's City Center. Oh, I don't know if that's true. She is going over there a lot. You know, these things get out of date and they should never write currently because then they don't go updated. That might have been written 10 years ago for all we know. But anyway, all right, there's your little idea about Marsha. Marsha and I have known each other a long time, and we've always gotten along. But you'll pick up on that in the podcast. So look, it's a long one, and let's just get into it, okay? Here we go. Hey.
All right. I'm a bit of a mess.
Oh, well, you look wonderful.
Thank you.
So how you doing?
Oh, it's been a really busy day.
Yeah? Like what?
Well, I'm getting ready to go to Switzerland for 7 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And my birthday, my 80th birthday is on Friday. My whole family's coming up to celebrate. So we're trying to do everything.
Huh.
You know, I have to start mail and and the bookkeeper was just here downloading it. So
Well,
it's just, been one of those days.
Yeah. What did you say? Your 80th birthday is Friday?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Well,
That's
Friday, yeah, yes, yeah.
what Friday? You are. It is Friday for you.
No, it's Monday. I mean, no, it's Friday. Next Friday is my birthday. I don't
Okay.
know what.
Okay. I got it. Well, congratulations. We'll be happy to have you join us in the Octogenarian Club.
How old are you?
80.
Oh, God. Yay.
Yeah. Well, I'm enjoying it.
So far, good. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, me too. So now,
Starting over. Take two.
starting over, take two. Now, forget that you've told me anything, and don't think, oh, he already knows this, right? Because you're talking to more than me. You're talking to the entire Alaya Vajnana, the storehouse of memory of the universe, of the cosmos. I do always like to start these podcasts by asking people, asking you as a people, what you're up to these days. What are you doing? How do you spend your time?
These days, have a psychotherapy practice 3 days a week, and I see mostly people who have experienced some kind of trauma. And I work specifically with dealing, with trauma. And I also see some Zen students who come to me and for practice discussion, but some of them have been doing both. We have done practice discussion and sometimes we do psychotherapy. And sometimes I've just worked with Zen students, just doing psychotherapy, just dealing with those issues, and they have another teacher.
And you said before that you know that everybody has some degree of trauma, or is that going too far?
Well, it's really interesting, and when you think about how certain kinds of there's something called repetitive trauma. So if you had a parent who kept shaming you over and over and over you and calling you bad names, would internalize that, and then you start saying those things to yourself. And it's not so conscious, but you come to believe what was told you. And in a sense, you develop all kinds of defenses to deal with that as a child. You might tend to dissociate or space out when somebody gets mad at you, or kind of freeze up, or you might become very, very anxious, or you might become hyper vigilant, watching out if somebody's getting upset or if there's conflict on the horizon. You may become hypersensitive to those things because you had a parent who would surprisingly explode in anger. So then you develop habits to cope with that as a child. Those habits get stored in your little dog brain, your limbic brain, and then they become habituated and they get generalized, and you start using the defenses that you had in your family of origin on it gets globalized. You gets generalized out, and you find that it's affecting all your relationships. Or all your relationships with authority, or all your relationships with men or women, depending on what it was that happened.
It makes me think of three things. One is my parents were very, very nice, and supportive and positive and excellent sort of cosmic religious upbringing. But I think my mother had PTMS, post-trauma menstrual.
PTSD?
menstrual
Oh, PMS,
PMS, uh,
syndrome.
because she would just like, and if it's funny, I never realized it. Even in my adulthood, I would say, well, my mother would about once a month just explode for a while and then would go away. And uh, uh, the way I deal with it would just be calm and let it pass. And then she'd apologize. It was very strange. Uh, and but she dealt with it. She kept looking, why am I doing this? And traced it back to the way her father's mother treated her very badly. And so that was interesting. I was very impressed with how she dealt with it. Another thing is when I think of trauma with myself, I think of certain things I went through with my younger son. And you know that sort of generic iPhone ring? I really
Yeah.
don't like to hear it. I I you know, anybody who's around me got to say, "Can you change your ring?" And if it's in a movie, and I could go into detail, but I said to him when we left for Asia 12 years ago, and he and I are very close. I said, it's going to be really good to be on the other side of the world from you for a while and not have to deal with your messes, problems. And he said, yeah, I'll take care of them. Don't worry. And I don't need you. I can deal with it.
What do you think you want me to signal you about?
What?
You told me before that you wanted me to stop you if you were starting to free associate too much.
Oh, yeah.
And
All right.
I'm trying to figure out if this is one of those things.
No, I wanted to list three things. All right. And
Okay.
the third one is Shunryu Suzuki, who and Japanese in general in the Kabishi Gashin Sensu tradition, strict but kind.
Mhm.
And his master, Crooked Cucumber, was like calling him Butthead. Uh, the crooked cucumber is the little tiny cucumber at the end of the spiraling vine that's useless. And it's a
Mhm.
way to say, you're useless and you'll never amount to anything. And he'd tell him, I feel sorry for you because you'll never have any good disciples. And Suzuki said he he didn't grieve when his master died, and it took him years to appreciate it because he was just always sort of mean. But he came to be grateful for him. But that's the experience of a lot of Japanese, I think. But he as a father, he was very cold and distant too.
Mhm.
So those are the things that occur to me. But
And it's hard to know. You have to take people's culture into consideration, and things that other cultures do don't have the same meaning if you did them in this culture.
well
So,
said.
so it doesn't always have the impact we imagine because we're looking at it from an ethnocentric point of view from our culture. So we'd have to sort of step out of our culture and look at that culture and say, well, what does it mean if you're in that setting? Because some people that might talk like, well, anything a teacher does is a teaching, so figure out how to use that, whatever
Hmm.
they did. If they called you butthead, then how is that a teaching for you? It would require you to use your noggin to figure out another way to view that other than just taking it personally.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, Yeah,
Like he would say, sometimes I might admonish you, David, and say you're very bad, blah, 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 doing these wrong things. But I'm not really talking to you. I'm talking to another student who can't tolerate that level of concentration.
Oh, well, that's very Japanese. I mean, that's what they do in Soto Zen. Suzuki would
Yes,
talk
that's what I'm
about
saying.
that.
So sometimes they do things, they'll do something somebody will do something in another culture, it has an entirely different meaning.
Yeah. He'd say things to me about other people that later I'd think, I think he's talking to me about me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, there's your anthropology background
Right.
helping out. So, how did you get? All right, you've got these two paths. You've got therapy and you've got
Mhm.
Zen. So, you you come from L.A. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Uh, and so, how where did these paths begin? What is your way-seeking mind story on each of these paths?
Well, I didn't know anything about Zen until I was in college, and I had a professor, Fred Katz, who was a jazz cellist and who taught a wild class. And he was talking about, he would talk about Buddhism. He would talk about, uh, and he would talk to us about haiku, and that he felt that, uh, how did he relate it to jazz? It was something about getting out of the way. And that somehow, if you practice and practice and practice, like you're practicing the scales as a jazz musician, and you practice them over and over until pretty soon your fingers know the scales. And he said, at the point that you can kind of forget about it, he said, then you can do what in jazz they call blow or improvise. And that improvisation would not go through central. It would come straight, quote, from your heart. But it's also the same instruction you would get from in a shuso ceremony from to just not think about the question that's being asked of you and just respond immediately.
Mm,
And what you respond from is not from some cogitated, fabricated idea that you think would be a good answer. It's the answer that arises out of you without thinking.
mm,
And that gift to me was like, an experience of feeling my own Buddha nature coming through. And I didn't know how that happened. I thought it was the most skillfully choreographed ceremony that would have you so preoccupied with so many other things, you really couldn't really think about anything, and you would just have to speak from your heart or from your big mind,
mm.
not your thinking usual mind. And it was one of the best gifts of my entire life for me. And it felt familiar to the way in which a jazz musician would like a Miles Davis guy. That's his Buddha nature coming through, from my point of view.
So that college that class in college, and you were majoring in anthropology, right?
Right. And this was he had an ethnological music and then a class, but the one that I got that stuff from was field study jazz.
No kidding.
No
Really?
kidding. This
Mm.
guy he was wild. He did not have any regular curriculum.
Wow. Do you listen to jazz?
Yeah. I was a big jazz buff, especially in the 60s, and we had these great jazz clubs in the
Right.
60s. I
It,
would go, I saw all of them. I saw Miles Davis, I saw Les McCann, I saw, everybody. And it was amazing. It was
Wonderful.
amazing.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
There's really good jazz here. and Katrina and I,
Valley?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I've worked with jazz musicians here to make music.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and rhythm and blues and rock. But yeah, if you come, we'll take you to some jazz places.
Love it.
So you're, but where did you? I remember what you said about where your therapy path began. I really love that.
Oh yeah, I I I graduated college and I worked in this summer camp up in Idlewild, and I got my degree in the mail, and it's like all of a sudden it was like I had reached an immense edge, and I had been knocking myself out just to finish this degree. I was working my way through school, and I hadn't really thought about what am I going to do after I get this degree.
And your
And I
degree
started
was in anthropology.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was going to do. And so it was like I was reading a book and somebody tore out the second half. I didn't have any more pages. I didn't know what to do. And so the head of the camp was a psychologist. He said, "I think you should get into therapy." And so I
Huh.
went. I didn't have any money, so I went to the LA Free Clinic. It was on the corner of. It was right across from CBS. It was on Fairfax, I think, and maybe Wilshire or something like that.
Yeah.
And so there's this little place, and they're doing psychotherapy for free, and they're working with, and everybody's taking acid and smoking pot, and there's all these people coming for various reasons. Anyway, I go and I start talking to this a woman who's a PhD candidate, and she's taping the sessions, and she plays them because she's learning how to do therapy herself. So I'm seeing this intern basically, and after a few sessions, the guy who's running the seminar uh, sends a message through her asking her, saying, if you would like, you can join the seminar and we can train you to do psychotherapy, or you can continue and just see this woman, with the therapy that you were doing. And I said, I was so flattered. I said, I'll join the seminar. So
Yeah.
I did. And that's where I got my first training in psychotherapy. And then I got a job working for the county as a social worker. And then I paid for my own private therapy, but continued training for the next, I guess, about almost 2 years at the LA Free Clinic.
That's great. That's great. And what was it like? I mean, you know, who would
It
you, what type of people would you see and what would you tell them
I
and what?
saw a compulsive gambler. I saw somebody who was depressed, a young guy who was just very, very depressed, and just he was sort of having a little existential crisis. And mostly what I was doing, I wasn't telling him anything much. I was mostly just listening and making space for him to see himself.
Depression seems to me to be like really tough.
It's very, very tough.
Yeah. And there's probably different causes like genetic or just born with the tendency toward it
Yeah,
and
some
other
people are
reasons.
predisposed. Yeah, it's not just a psychological thing necessarily. And with some people, it's often repressed anger, or anger turned inward because they don't it can't come out for one reason or another. And sometimes it's just profound despair.
Mm, mm,
So there's
mm.
no sense of the person doesn't know how to inquire about what they'd like.
Mm, mm,
Often they don't know how to amuse themselves or please themselves or what fun is.
mm. Yeah. Um,
I'm it's like you are so I mean you're so relaxed that you make everybody around you feel relaxed. You don't have any of that shit as far as I can tell.
I'm I I've very rarely had any problem like that. Now, when Elon, and you know Elon, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When Elon and I first got together, we had a very emotional, love affair thing, right? And then she went to Taiwan, and I was a lot older, so she said, "Well, that'll be it." And I I cried for a couple of months, and I saw Katagiri, and he said I had become more compassionate than I could appreciate other people's suffering, or something like that. Uh,
Mhm.
and yeah, that was. Mm,
True. It's true. Make you can identify with people that are suffering in that way, in a way that you might not have been able to before that.
yeah, yeah. Um, mm, mm. You said something when we talked before. I'm just going to go back and cut it out of it about when you were a kid. I mean, unless you can repeat it now, how you were a born therapist.
Oh God, yes, that was really something. I remember the woman next door.
At what age were you?
I was like 11, 10, 11,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, the there was a kid that had lived next door, Bob Tobis, and they left. And then this, I can't remember this woman's name right now, actually. And she had a daughter, and she had a little baby. And I would go over there and I would help diaper the baby and we would talk. And then she started telling me about all of her financial problems and problems with her husband and their mother-in-law and all this stuff. And I would just be interested, and I just would ask her questions and how come this? And well, why don't you try that? And we would have these long, long conversations. And that was the first time I remember an adult kind of confiding in me. And then when
Mm.
then I just people would just come up and tell me their stories, or I'd be sitting next to someone and they would just start talking to me about what was bothering them. And I mean, I was always interested. I've always been interested in people. My father used to take me to lunch when I was very small. And we would sit in the restaurant and he'd say, "Look at those people over there." And I'd look at them and he'd say, "What do you think their relationship is? What do you
Ah.
think they're doing there?" And we would study these people and I'd say, "Well, I think they're married." And he said, "Why do you think that?" And I would say, "Well, she just put sugar in his coffee, so she
Oh,
must know really, really well.
yeah. Well
So
said.
she must be married."
Yeah, yeah. That's a good eye.
So we would have those kind of conversations, or how they were dressed and what we thought that meant. And he really fostered my interest in who people were and why they were like that and stuff like that.
Mm, mm,
He was very
mm,
philosophical, very optimistic, and he talked to everybody. My father did.
mm.
He would talk to the grocer or the guy spraying the vegetables in the market. He'd talk to the garbage man. He'd talk to everybody and just chat them up. And I'd say, "How come you talk to all these people?" He said, "Everybody can teach you something. Everybody has something to teach you, and you never know who it's going to be. So
Wow.
even the garbage man might have something that you could learn from." And that just stuck with me.
That is a great thing to have your father tell you.
It was wonderful.
Wow.
So I was very interested in learning things from people and understanding them and stuff like that.
That's really good. That's really good. Uh, uh, I'm just relating it to when I was a kid, how we felt about others. This and that. Um, uh, so your therapy begins at youth at
Yes.
very early. You were born for it, and I sort of see. I don't really believe things. I look at things different ways. And one way I look at it is that we're born, and this is like an ancient way of looking at it too, like back in degrees, born with a, like, what do they call it? The daemon, born with some calling, you know,
Yes.
uh, and so possibly you were born with a, you know, the some calling there that in some way you've been fulfilling, and but also the combination of that with your jazz zen. So how did they progress? Here you are at this clinic in
So,
L.A.
I carried on with that, and then I was working as a social worker, and as I said before, I started out with mothers in training for the county, women on welfare, and then I got transferred to working with being an officer of the court, supervising children that had been abandoned, abused, molested, uh, or endangered, and would supervise these children in placement and visit the parents of these children and make recommendations to the court whether or not the parents were fit yet or could the child be placed back in the home at that point, depending on what had happened,
That's a
if the house.
heavy responsibility.
Well, yeah, I only lasted a couple of years doing it. There were some cases that were so horrendous that, I mean, I just couldn't believe that people could do some of the horrible things that they could do. I mean, it just, it was, you can't do that forever. I tell you, you can't do that day in and day out
Uh huh.
forever.
Uh huh.
It's so, uh, it just makes you so sad to see these innocent children in
Uh.
such horrible situations.
It.
So I did that anyway, and
Well,
then
wait. I have a question about it. Isn't it sort of hard to take children away from parents? I mean, aren't there also a big gray area and a lot of kids with parents that you can see it's not a good situation at all,
Mhm.
but it, like, legally maybe it doesn't go far enough, or
Well, it's really, yes. I mean, the kids I had, these were horrendous. They were either molested or by repeatedly, or they were living in such incredible filth that it was just not tenable. I mean, with dog feces on the living room floor, and I mean,
oh,
really, really horrendous situations. It takes a lot, at least at that time, uh, to remove a child from a home. It had to be pretty horrendous. It, uh, like I had battered children. I had battered children with belt buckle welts on their backs,
is that
and
enough? Isn't that enough to separate them from their parents
yeah, yeah.
immediately?
But you have to have something that the courts can see.
Yeah, yeah. Are there parents? There must be parents that know that and know how to beat their children without leaving marks, or to give them pain or
Hard,
something.
yeah. If they're not leaving marks, they might not get removed. But if they leave welts or black and blue marks, yeah.
Yeah. Oh. My.
But it happens usually that the child will end up in the nurse's office for one reason or another, and that's how those things get discovered. And this was like with this boy, it was he went to the nurse and asked, he went to the teacher and asked the teacher to send him a note, send back a note with him saying he was bad. And the reason he wanted to do that would be because when he went home, then his father, who had a very explosive temper, would then hit him, and then there would be peace. And then it would be over. And so then he could count on there being like at a period then of peace for a day or 3 days or whatever the cycle was.
And
And battered
wow.
children often do that. They will throw themselves on the sword in order to just get some peace.
Good
So
Lord.
they're not, because there isn't this anxiety of when is it going to happen. So it was stuff like that that I just,
Wow. So what happened? You got you went as far as you could with that. You had to get away from it.
yeah, I ended up sort of getting in trouble because there was this one little boy who had been, he had trouble getting along, and these homes were not the nicest homes in the world, and so I had to take him out of one placement and put him in another, and he was very, very sad, and so I said, I said, have you ever seen the ocean? Or something came up that made it clear he had never seen the ocean. He lived in Los Angeles, he'd never seen the ocean. So I decided that instead of taking him right to the next placement, I would take him to the beach. And I lived in Venice, and I took him back to my house. I bought him an ice cream. We got some fishing line, and we went fishing off the Venice pier. And I spent a couple of hours telling him it wasn't his fault and that there was nothing wrong with him, and that I was hoping that this placement they were going to be nice to him, but that what was happening to him was not his fault, and he should never think it was. And so then I went back. I told my supervisor what I did, and he said, "No, you cannot do that." And I got
What
in
you
trouble.
should have gotten extra credit.
Yeah. Well, you're not supposed to get personal. You're supposed to stay professional. Anyway, I couldn't stand.
I see.
I just thought it was too. I said this kid needs an ice cream and some time out,
Yeah.
pleasant, something fun.
Wow. Wow. That's the way I was with priests at Zen Center. You know, they just go from Japan to the airport to Zen Center to Tassajara back to Zen, and there was now they were really used to that in Japan. You don't deviate, but at Zen
Hmm.
Center it'd be the same thing. So, I'm doing. Well, I took 6 hours once to get Kobun from San Francisco to Tassajara. We saw a movie. We went to the pier and Santa Cruz, et cetera, et cetera. I always
Hmm.
did that. And I would be told, you shouldn't have done that. We were waiting for him. We had a meeting or something. We can't. I remember Dick Baker told. He said, "Sometimes I feel like I can't trust you." I said, "Why did it matter? Because Kobun can." So it was not a heavy authoritarian scene, so I
Well,
could get
and
away
you
with it.
just don't get ruffled either. You're not somebody. If somebody's going to get upset, you just watch them be upset. You don't get into it.
That is ideal. Yeah. Um, um, so that's wonderful with you at that kid on the beach. So where does it go from there?
So there, when I was in college, I had a friend, Leslie Pierce, and she said she took me to ZCLA. We went
Oh,
there once,
uh-huh.
and she said, I found this place and da da da. So let's go. And so we went and we go. And she said, go cross your legs and sit on this cushion.
Oh,
So, so I did that and we're sitting there for like it seemed forever. And I would hear this whap, whap behind me, but I had no idea what was going on. And then that the period was over, and then they gave us some oatmeal and in bowls, and
ah.
a guy started talking, but it didn't make any sense. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I mean, I just had no idea. It
Was it
just was like,
Maizumi? Had to be
I don't
my.
know who it was. It was I'm sure it was Maizumi.
It was
I,
Maizumi, but he spoke
and
good English.
yeah, but I didn't get it, and I didn't have any context to
Yeah,
get it, really.
yeah.
And so we never went back.
Ah, uh-huh.
But but then when I finally came to Zen Center, I went, oh, now that makes sense what was going on there. But at the time, I think I was like 19. I had no idea. And I wasn't particularly interested in something that was so uncomfortable. I was interested in good times and fun and marching. Going, I was political and I
Oh,
was,
I see what you
you
mean.
know, yeah, and taking
Marching.
drugs.
I went. What's she talking about? Um,
Yeah,
oh,
I was interested in demonstrations and sit-ins and those kind of things. I wasn't interested in sitting in a room looking at a wall.
right.
Just didn't.
Were you a member or just involved with SDS?
Yeah, I was a member of SDS and I was a member of SNCC.
Wow. I was involved with of them, but I never joined anything.
Hmm.
I never joined Zen Center either. Uh, really, I don't remember ever. I mean, it wasn't me. It wasn't. I was not joining. I don't ever remember being asked to join anything.
Were
Uh,
you ever a shuso?
sure.
Well, then you're a lifetime member.
Yeah, that's true. But it was just so far back there. And one thing is, I had a little money, so I was giving a certain amount, and I didn't have to be supported. Uh, and so maybe people became members at some point where they donated some. I don't know. I just don't ever remember. It was just not a big deal
Yeah.
back then. It was very.
You
It was
never got a card. You never got a membership card or anything like
There
that. They,
wasn't anything like that, but they
oh,
did have a membership, I think. They had a mailing list for the Windbell. I don't know.
yeah,
Anyway, it was so low key. I mean, and I came in '66.
yeah,
There was no love bombing, which is a Mooney phrase, right? And a lot of groups love bomb. Somebody comes in, people are real friendly, uh,
uh-huh.
and just very positive. They give them an experience of being accepted that a lot of people haven't had before. It's very appealing.
Right.
Then none of that
Yeah.
is in centers. People just came and went, uh, and
No, it wasn't what you would call the most welcoming place. It would take years to penetrate.
yeah.
You know,
um, but
if you didn't move in, I was like, I never moved into Zen Center. I never was a resident.
mhm,
I always was a commuter. By the time I came, I already had a formed life. I had a
yeah,
psychotherapy practice. I was doing stuff. And so
yeah,
I had commitment. So I had a formed life. I was a commuter. I was somebody who came and And so I moved to Muir Beach so I could sit every morning in that Zendo and then participate in communal work. And then I go to work.
Yeah,
And
and
then
that's a
I
really
back.
good way to be involved with Zen Center. It's
Mhm.
just as good as living in it.
Well, for me, it worked, and I could sit sessions and I could do a lot of the practice, but I just knew not only was it impractical for me, there was no way I was going to move in there. I mean, I just never trusted Baker Roshi. I didn't believe that he would look out for my welfare.
Uh huh. Uh huh. Pardon me.
It just I just felt like he had other fish to fry, and I didn't want to be at the mercy of somebody who I wouldn't matter to particularly.
Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh. Mm. I understand that, but you've said other things too, showing how much you appreciate what he did and all that.
I think the guy was amazing at what he was able to put together with the three places and how he was able to raise money with Yvonne's help, and get, attract such an amazing group of interesting, brilliant people to participate in the community, to either move in or come and visit and share their beautiful talents. I mean, it was such a exciting place to be.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was. I was his Jisha, except for the 3 months when I was formerly Shuso. I was his Jisha for 2 years. I was
Oh,
around him
wow.
all the time. And we always got along, but I never was a sycophant or anything like that. And I think he gave me a long leash. We really didn't have much trouble. But being around him was fun. I mean, like at Green Gulch, at Tassajara, there wasn't, there wasn't all the action and everything. It was pretty busy, just the schedule and seeing people and doing things. But like at Green Gulch or in the city, there was so much happening in his place, and they were so compact with people, with his wife and Renee and Sally and Nakamura Sensei, and then at Green Gulch they took on that guy's daughter, Heidi. Is that her name? Yeah, yeah.
Which guy?
Well, there was a guy there who was a student who had a daughter,
Uh,
and she was like early teenager or something, or 13
mhm.
or something. The Bakers took her into their
We're in.
home. I don't remember the exact story, but they took a lot on. There was a lot happening. It was like this little world that was related and unrelated
Mhm.
to the practice and the broader community at Green Gulch and in the city.
He did a lot of rescuing. I mean, he rescued Jackie Warshaw. He rescued a lot of people that were in trouble. And
Yeah,
sometimes he did it secretly, and sometimes everybody knew it. But I mean, I was really surprised how much he would uh, extend himself to take care of people in trouble.
yeah. I was involved with the Jackie Warsaw thing. Actually, Mike Phillips called me and said, David, and before that, I had been involved with finding Jackie and the daughter's name, Mishra, or something, and her husband. I went with Jackie's mother to find her, and her mother was like a hound dog. I was just so impressed. She, we found where they were and everything.
Well,
But
Jackie, yeah.
uh,
I mean, but
later,
she got sent to me.
oh, she got sent to. Let me finish this, and then I want to hear about that. Then I can't remember his name. Her husband kidnapped the child and took her to
Right.
India, and that's when Richard got involved with wanting to get her back. And I got a call from Mike Phillips. I was very close with, and he said, "David, Dick is about to destroy a Zen Center." I said, "What?" He said, "A religious institution cannot be involved with kidnapping a child." That's what took Synanon down. And then he started pointing things out. He said, "You have a private eye friend, Josiah Tink Thompson." So I got hold of Tink and connected them. And that took it away from Zen Center to be Tink was working for the family, although Dan Welsh went too. And they got her back. And it was an amazing.
Dolly. They brought her dolly with them. They took one of her dolls so that she could recognize so that she would go with the stranger.
Right. Oh, right. Well, tell me more.
Well, that's what I know is that they got this guy who had been like ex-CIA or something, and they figured out a way to get the father out of there, and they swooped in and got her, and they had this special doll that she really loved, and so that they could say, "This is from mommy, and she wants you to have the doll so we can take you to mommy. Want to go to mommy?" And absolutely yes, she wanted to go to mommy. So they said, "We're going to take you right to mommy right now."
Right, because the father, Krishna, that was his name. The father kept the daughter with him at work because he was.
It was awful.
Yeah.
He was a madman. He was just really, and so she had snuck out from him, and she had made it to Bolinas, and then she came to see me, and then somehow he had kidnapped her and the daughter and taken her to India, and then this whole thing started again. And so then finally she came in, but she was very, very young. Jackie was. And so I ended up it was almost like I was doing therapy with both the mother and the daughter together.
The mother, you mean Jackie's mother?
No, Jackie and her daughter.
And her daughter. All right.
Back.
Wow. Do you remember Jackie had a distinctive feature?
What do you mean?
She lost part of a finger to an escalator when she was a child.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, she's missing like half a finger.
I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I just remember doing Santre work and kind of play therapy with both of them. And I remember that Baker Roshi got a senator to help change her social security number so that this guy couldn't trace her.
far
She got
out.
got a whole nother name and a whole nother social security number, so she could not be traced.
Wow.
And then she got married on the East Coast to somebody very nice. And she called and said, "I'm getting married," and asked me if I'd come to the wedding. I couldn't come to the wedding, but I was very, very happy for her.
Doesn't she live in the West Bank now?
I don't know where she lives now.
I
mean, I love it.
I think she married an Orthodox guy, and they live in the West Bank.
Wow. Oh, God.
I mean, but that was a long time ago. I heard that. She went missing at Tassajara on a hike with people over to Church Creek Ranch, and it is amazing. She was out all night. It was winter. It was extremely cold. She found her way back down to Tassar Creek, fell into the creek, and covered herself with leaves and walked in the next morning. We were looking everywhere for her, but that was very, she's lucky she lived from that. That was really something.
She's a survivor, I tell you. What
Yeah.
she survived was amazing with that guy.
Yeah, and he died young. He had a heart attack.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Yeah. So wait a minute. Where were we? We were still back there. You actually weren't in the Bay Area yet.
Let's see. So I yeah, I was working as a social worker, and then I came up on vacation with some friends, and we went up through Oregon, and I made some contact with some old Esalen leaders that I knew on the way back down, and so they were very friendly. And I came back into LA. I took one look at this huge room with a million desks in it, and I just said, I'm done. I don't want to live here anymore. I don't want to be in this smog, and my life was just too predictable. I knew exactly how it was going to be, and I was bored. And
Yeah.
so I quit, and I gave a month's notice, and uh, I went. I had some friends. We got a van together, and we all drove up, and I rented an apartment with a few other people in San Francisco. And then I looked up these old Esalen leaders, and then within a couple of months, they said, "Why don't you come and house sit? We're leaving. We are going to Mexico. We want it." And I did. And then I ended up renting a room from them. And they kind of took me under their wing and helped me get a job at the uh, Marin Open House, which is a drug abuse treatment center in San Rafael in Marin County. And I that's how that, and I was down to my last 3750. I just didn't have much left, and I got this job in the nick of time, and uh was able to uh make a living, teaching housewives how to do therapy with heroin addicts. And I basically took what I learned from the LA Free Clinic and recreated the same seminar teaching model, and had a job.
That's great. But where was that? Marin Open Clinic.
We're in open house on
Open house.
Lincoln, 1350 Grant, I think, what was it? 1350 Lincoln Avenue. It's now an apartment building, but at that time it was an old kind of Victorian house with a basement and lots of bedrooms. It was just huge. And
Hmm.
so we used it, and we had a lot group rooms, and then we had a kind of sheltered workshop in the basement, and we had therapy rooms, and we had encounter groups and group therapy and different kind. And then so I did that for a few years, and then with Ed Beggs, who did Huckleberry House, and my friend
Oh, yeah.
Sherman, Gordy Sherman was on the OFAB board, and his wife Kate and I and Ed Beggs all created Rites of Passage, and we started a youth center.
Wow. I'd like to point out here that Gordy Sherman, I think, was the founder of Midas Muffler. Is that right?
Yes, that's
Right.
right. He described himself as a refugee from the corporate world, and they were very, very good friends. His wife, Kate, Corky at the time, Kate, came to my seminar, and we became very, very good lifelong friends after that.
And she was, and they were both very involved in things like I was involved in the nuclear freeze. They were involved with that, and she developed
Chicago
some.
Seven. He
Huh?
took the he took the Chicago Seven to the Standard Club for lunch, where the judge was having lunch
Wow,
during that trial. He was a wild man, I tell you. He did
wow.
radical things. He
Wow.
funded he funded Ralph Nader. He got Ralph Nader up and going.
Really?
He Yes. And he used to have these tea groups with all his executives where they'd all sit on the floor and have these uh, uh, kind of encounter kind of group therapy kind of things with his executives. He did some really wild stuff. Was a
Ah,
really
ah.
interesting Renaissance man. He was amazing. He was a great teacher of mine,
Mm, mm. That's
and
that.
he was very helpful to me. And both of them were. They were.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me about them. I'd forgotten all about them. And they would come to Green Gulch on
Yeah.
Sundays. And he, I, I guess they were both involved with Dick's salon.
Yeah, and he was on the outside financial advisory board.
Ah, yeah, yeah, of course. Hmm. Uh, so, but you're not involved with Zen Center yet in what you're telling me. You're working at Marin Open
Right. And
House?
so a Marine Open House and then Rites of Passage. We created this youth center with a sex hotline and like sort of outward boundy kind of backpacking trips. We get poor kids and rich kids, stick them together and take them all and do ropes courses and hike up to Matterhorn Peak and stuff like that.
Wow, very
Then
good.
we had co-counseling, we did family therapy. We had a whole bunch of programs that we offered.
Wow. And what year was that?
That was, let's see, that was probably 71 to 73. I was doing that. So the
Hmm.
three running it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Edward was the visionary and the fundraiser, and
Well,
Kate and
Edward.
I,
Edward. Wait. Edward.
Edward Bebbs, who had
Oh,
started
right.
Huckleberry.
Yeah.
And so then, and Kate and I created the program and made it happen, you know.
Wow. Hmm. Hmm. And so continue.
Okay, so in that time, I got invited to this thing where they had this what some of my clients who had come to me because of these Esalen leaders who knew these heavy hitters. So they were sort of in the human growth potential movement and
Yeah.
fancy people. And so they created something called Adult University, where they invited people like a day with Gregory Bateson, a day with Carl Rogers, a day with Eric Erickson. So they invited me to the one with Carl Rogers and they invited me to the one with Eric Erickson. And I don't I just lucked out. And so it was there that I met Yvonne and Richard Baker. They were
Hmm.
at one of those things. They had the Paul Winter consort for entertainment that night, who and did their thing in the living room. I mean, it
The
was
living. Whose
extraordinary.
living room?
The living room, somebody's Stinson Beach house that this thing was happening in this
Uh huh.
event.
Uh huh.
And Eric Erickson had shared the galleys of his new book and was asking for feedback from from like editor of Psychology Today and George Leonard and those kind of people.
Yeah.
So he and I got to come and I got to be a student and I got to
Yeah.
ask the stupid questions. And so it was perfect for me. And
Yeah.
it was at that time Yvonne said, we've heard about you, and because a lot of these people were friends of Richard, so we've heard about you, and we would like to ask you to see some of the students at Zen Center who are having some emotional problems. And I said, I can't do it right now. I have to finish my degree and get licensed.
Hmm.
So, but I went there and had this sort of extraordinary experience with Yvonne. and who took me around Green Gulch and then took me down to Tassajara. And I had a really extraordinary experience the first time I ever sat Zazen that I didn't expect to have. And
Wait,
I
wait,
got,
wait, wait. What was your? I can remember it. It's visual. So tell us.
okay, so as you know, going anywhere with Yvonne is not a straight line. And so we started out about 8 o'clock.
Oh yeah, that's great. And you're going
We,
where?
we
You're going
arrived
to
at
Tassajara.
we arrived at Tassajara just in time for evening zazen around 7 o'clock or something.
What'd you do on the way? And you said you left at
Well,
8 in the morning.
we stopped somewhere on the peninsula. She delivered a loaf of bread, I don't know, something to somebody. And then we stopped someplace else, and then the van broke down.
Uh,
And so then we had to wait while somebody did something to make it to Tassajara. And and I was grateful to finally get there because we'd spent the whole day in this van that was stinking with garlic and onions and vegetables. It was very, and so we get there and it's dark and she takes me into this room and says, okay, I'm going to give you a very quick Zazen instruction. And she shows me how to sit and shows me the cosmic mudra and says, okay, now just go in there and don't think about anything but your breath and count your breaths. I said, okay. She said, count them in groups of 10. I said, okay. So I go in there and I start breathing and following my breath. And I just have this profound experience of like it was sort of like there was a tube in the middle of me and it went endlessly up and endlessly down and it was all I was like it moved all the way through me and it I was there but it was as if it's like I existed but Marsha I was sort of like I left my name at the doorstep or something, and it was just some kind of consciousness that was existing.
mm-hmm,
It wasn't Marcia having an experience. It was, I don't know, the experience was experiencing.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, and I came out of there and I went, Jesus Christ. I'd done it, as I said, I had done a year of Reiki and breathing work. So my breathing was really opened up. And I came out of there and I said, you do that every day? That blew my mind. And she just said, it's best not to talk about it too much. Let's just have the experience and we'll just, you know, don't get too chatty about it. I said, okay. I said, but it's really intense. And so I said, I'm definitely going back. I'm going to do that again. She said, well, bell's going to ring and you can go do it again. And I said, I'm going. So I go in there, I sit down on the cushion. And within 5 minutes, I was nodding off. I could not stay awake to save my life. And so
You became an advanced Zen student overnight.
oh yeah. So then Yvonne and she's telling I think she was telling I can't remember his name. Dan Welch. She was telling Dan Welch he was there about and she was like so impressed. She said, "This is advanced practice." Of course, I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. All I know is they had this thing that blew my mind, and the next day I couldn't stay awake to save my life, and that was that. But I was definitely interested in how that all happened.
Uh,
So that's how it all started. And so
what year was that?
that was 1973 or 1974, maybe 74, probably.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Yeah. Oh.
And I just thought, this is far out. This is interesting. And Yvonne really sort of swept me up in that. She was very, much introducing me to just all these different things. And she took me to see, different poets that she just sort of schlepped me along where she was going. And I ended up meeting all these incredible people that I had no idea would ever meet.
Hmm.
You know, I got to meet Allen Ginsberg. I got to meet Larry Ferlinghetti. She took me to the Baker Rushi's Tea House
Oh, up
up
in
in
Nevada City,
yeah, and told
Jenny's
me the story
Jenny's
of
Tea
that. Then
House.
we went over to Gary Snyder's house and hung
Yeah.
out with, and I was just like, "Whoa, this is so cool."
Hmm. Yeah.
I got introduced in this. I felt like I got the limo service or something. It was just to get access and being introduced to all these different people that were part of this community in one way or another.
Now, the you but you got your first when you and Yvonne went down to Tassajara, wasn't but for that she met you and she said she she'd like to she had just met you, she'd like to spend a little time with you. Could you come to Green Gulch and say hello?
Well, that was at that event in Stinson Beach, and I said, "Okay, I am going through finals, and I'll see you in June. I can't really come for another month." So at the end of the month, I called and said, "Okay, I'm done with that stuff. I can come now." And she said, "Great." And then I had that dream
Oh, tell
that
us the dream. Tell us that was really
I
good.
had this dream that I was going to go and meet this woman and that we were going to walk through the fields and that she was going to tell me her life story and that we were going to end up under a tree and she was going to be crying and I was going to be comforting her. And it's pretty much what happened, only she didn't start crying. She cried in the parking lot, but it wasn't under. But that's exactly what happened. And I mean, it was such a vivid premonition dream. And then to
Yeah,
have the whole thing actually happen was just stunning to me.
yeah.
And so that was interesting. And then it was like very shortly after that, she took me down to Tassajara and then started inviting me to everything, all kinds of events and things that were going on at Zen Center. And then during that time, we'd become great friends, and she was teaching me all about Zen, and I was learning all these things, and it was just great, and I was getting all this attention and special treatment, and it was wonderful. And then she came to my house and spent the whole day crying about I don't know what, and ended up. I guess coming on to me and she kissed me and it sort of stunned me and it was late by that time so she ended up spending the night and nothing happened. I mean we just slept together but it was very the whole thing was very dysregulating for me. I would say
Yeah.
that.
But you all did become a sort of couple for a while, a secret couple.
We became a
Secret.
secret couple. I fell madly and we fell in love with each other.
Yeah.
And she took me back east and I met Nancy Wilson Ross and she took me to Monhegan Island and I got to spend time with Charlotte Selver and have my first lobster. I mean, I had adventures I never would have had if I hadn't met Yvonne.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and so that went on, and I was living in Maggie Cress's house, renting it from her, and then
In Mirror
Zen Center
Beach.
in
Eh,
Muir Beach. So because I moved there the very beginning of 1975, so it was sort of like June of '74, and then by by January 75, I had moved to Muir Beach. And then it was just months later that Zen Center bought it. And Yvonne moved in with me, and we were
One
living
second.
together.
1 second. Katrinka has some question. Yes, darling, please.
I'm going to get the laundry soap, and I'm going to Spatika Volga, so I will get you.
Yeah. You want to take my card? Yeah,
Okay.
take it to get that laundry soap. That stuff's expensive. All right. Say hi to Marsha.
Hi, Martha.
Say hi to Katrina.
She
Hi.
said, she's on the earphones, she says hi. Yeah, take a look at her. She looks great. And she's turning 80 next Friday. See?
Yeah.
Yay! Yay, team!
All right. Bye-bye. Now, where were we?
Okay, so I moved to Muir Beach, and Yvonne moved in and became my landlord. And then it became clear for me that I could.
Wait.
Yeah.
She became your landlord because Zen Center bought the house from Maggie Kress. All right.
Exactly.
Go on.
So then I became very uncomfortable having it be a secret what was going on between us. I told my friends and in my life, and I just didn't like pretending that we were having a different relationship than we were having. And Blanche figured it out. And, lots of people figured it out. And so, come on. But anyway.
I figured it out, but I was around the house a lot.
So at that point, I just said, I can't do this. If you don't want to talk about it, if you don't want to admit that you're having this relationship with me, then I don't want to be in it. I just can't do it. I can't have that duplicitous kind of life. It just makes me crazy. It's too stressful. So it was very sad in some ways, but it was a great relief, and I moved out.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved up the hill. I moved up to I got a place on Sunset Way, across the street from Sam Keene.
Oh.
And
yeah.
And I lived there for another, I guess, 7 years or so.
Is that right? Huh. Were you there when, Daya moved into one of those houses? Daya Goldschlag at that point. And also Ken Wilbur and Treya. But
Ted and Jane lived there, and China Gallen lived up there.
Yeah.
And Will Schutz at one point lived up there.
And Daniel Ellsberg was living in Muir Beach, too.
Oh, did he? Oh, yeah. He was Berkeley by the time. I think he wasn't there when I was there.
Yeah. A lot of interesting people.
Yeah. Naomi Remen lived up there for a while. A lot of people. Anyway, it was, and Gary Friedman still lives there.
And Yvonne's college roommate from Stanford, Martha Freebaron Smith, lived with Lee DeBarros. Yes. And then Lee DeBarros moved out, and she took on another Lee, right? It wasn't his name Lee, too?
Oh, I didn't know she took on another Lee.
Wait a minute. Am I getting... No, Lee Sinella. Oh. She was with Lee Sinella, who wrote the book, the Kundalini. And they were together for years. And then Lee DeBarros moved in. So she went from one Lee to another. Yeah.
And so she's still there. She's still in Muir Beach.
Did you know anything about her? I'd love to say hello to her.
She's in my Dharma study group with Pam Wise.
I want to talk to her. All right, go on.
Yeah. So she's very weak. She's had a couple of TIAs recently.
What does that mean?
They're like mini strokes. They're like pre-strokes. Mm-hmm. They're just little glitches. They don't count as a real stroke, but they often happen before you have a stroke. and like maybe months or years before you have a stroke. But so she's very she's she's declining in that way, but she's there. She's got all her marbles, and
And that's
yeah,
wonderful. Wonderful.
yeah, and she's practicing, and she's practicing with Norman in Everyday Zen, and
Wonderful.
she's
She must be at least 85.
she's 90 something.
Is she? All right. Oh my God. Well, tell her hello for me. I sent her an email a year ago or so. I didn't get an answer, I think. Tell her I love Martha.
Yeah, send her another one, and I'll tell her that I spoke with you.
Oh,
And
please do. Tell her my love for her has not diminished.
I will. I will. I'll
And
tell her that I'd like to do a podcast if she could stand it.
fuck, I'd love to. Hey, you know what? A couple things about her. She was married originally to an architect, Freebaron Smith, I think architect. But it was one thing so impressive about her was like 30 years of hospice work with the San Francisco hospice. I mean, she was before everybody else was doing. She was before the Zen hospice.
She used to do a regular sitting group at the Redwoods in Mill Valley. The assistant is there. And she would beg me to come and take over the thing. And I said, I'll babysit from time to time, but I am not going there every Saturday morning. I'm just not doing that. But she did it for a long, long time.
Oh,
And
that's wonderful.
And now Grace Damon runs it
Wow.
because she lives there now.
Oh, wow. I just did a podcast talk with Nancy Fu Schroeder. And she told me, I love the Redwoods. It's so wonderful. I used to go visit people there. Dick Moore. Now, there's you another Muir Beach person. I'd go visit Richard Moore there, who was like Mr. KQED and all that. And Betty Warren, Lolly Rotsett. Do you know?
Yeah, and there was a folk singer there that was that was in a group. Who was it? God damn, I can't remember. But I remember Grace was looking forward to moving in because she was there, and then she died before Grace got there, and I can't remember her name. I don't know. Anyway,
Sim Vanderen's maid of many, many years, Ruth, her mother went in there, a Korean woman, and her mother and Dick Moore became very close there.
oh, that's great.
All right, please continue.
Okay, so let's see, where were we? I'm at Zen Center. I'm in Muir Beach. I'm practicing. I've moved out from Yvonne, which was a relief for me, and I'm continuing to practice. And that's when it was interesting. Paul Hawken and Anna were building their house at Green Gulch,
Right.
and they were living in Sam Keen's house. And
Oh.
one day, Anna comes to my door and she knocks on the door and says, I've seen you at Green Gulch. Will you be friends with me?
Oh.
And I go, come on in, have a cup of tea.
Oh.
And then we became very close friends forevermore.
Are you in touch with her now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's living in LA and she's near her children. And so that was interesting because then when that whole thing blew up,
Yeah.
it was like in the next year or two, then she would come over to my. I rented a house in Mill Valley, in that little Homestead Valley, and I at the end of the valley, and what started to happen was when everything blew up, then uh, Dan Welch, Deborah Madison, Lucy, uh, uh, and Karin Yording would all come over to my house, and then they would just, you know, cathart. They would just talk about
You mean
everything.
individually?
No, as a group.
Is
As
that
a
right?
group, they would all come together, and Dan and Deborah would come with a bag of groceries. They'd make a beeline for my kitchen, and they'd immediately start cooking.
Ah,
And then everybody would talk and complain and be upset and feel sad and what are we going to do and blah, blah, blah. So that
wow.
would go on.
You know
That
that you know where all the skeletons are buried. I mean, that's why we're having to redo this. Full disclosure, you and I talked for 2 hours 2 days ago, and I just realized there was too much stuff that was too personal. I don't mind getting into it a little, but we just it would be easier just to redo it, and so that's what we're doing.
so this is good. We're staying a little more disciplined in our
Right.
conversation.
Right.
So that was wonderful. And the thing that was really odd about it was they would leave, and then often a couple days later, Anna would come over, and then I would hear that side of the story.
Wow. Wow.
Going on.
Wow.
So, and she, of course, was suffering and in pain. The whole thing was very painful for so
Yeah.
many people.
I hated to see, their names just constantly for years coming up. And Lucy really didn't like people trying to tell her how she should feel and what had happened to her. She a few years ago, she wrote a letter. Did you see it? To Zen Center.
No.
About it. Well, it's on Kook.com.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, maybe I'll remember to send it to. Yeah. Anyway, please continue. That's really interesting. I will not ask you to go into any further depth in any of that, though I'm quite interested.
I would just say that shoes outside the door was not correct.
Yeah. Well, I have a whole section on shoes outside the door on Kiku.com.
He interviewed millions of people at Zen Center, but he never came and talked to me. And I was the one who everybody had come and told everything to.
Yeah.
So anyway, when I read it a long time ago, and I just went, "This is not right. It's not right. That's."
Well, yeah. It gave too extreme a very one-sided picture of the Zen Center, and
it was very demonizing, and it really did not do justice to the context and the situation. So much of it was missing.
yeah.
And then there was a lot that was just plain old inaccurate, just not right. It's not true.
Yeah. I went over it for 2 days beforehand and told him a lot of things, that made many, many suggestions for the book. And I called him up afterwards. The Cruise review came out in the New York Review of Books and said that women were coming to Zen Center and being assigned the position of being Dick's concubine. I mean, it was completely made up. I don't know where he got that from. And he said things that were so extreme. And I called Michael Downing up and I said, Michael, your book gives the wrong impression, and we actually had a dinner for him when he was in Sebastopol, and he did it, and gotten together. But yeah, I incidentally I wrote a letter to the New York Review of Books, sort of establishing I was I'd written the biography of the founding teacher and I knew people, and I quoted. I don't know if that letter I quoted, but anyway, they didn't print it, and they should have, because without being, somebody told me I was too nice, that I should have attacked Cruz more, and then they would have. But I was very polite, and But anyway, I've got. Yeah, go on.
That period happened, and I was at that time building my practice and sort of getting my shit together. I was using my house as an office initially, and then I got enough money together and I got an office on the arc of the Golden Gate, the arc of the Omphale, which was an arc that had been used to build the Golden Gate Bridge that was owned by Hal Balin. And Naomi Remen had an office on there, and Marty Rossman had an office, and we would have these seminars. We would have the 5 element system as a 5 elements as a family system, and we would talk about psychotherapy and talk about Chinese medicine together. It was
wow.
We made stuff up and just did it and had a great time there.
Wow.
And so I spent a lot of time doing that kind of stuff. And so I was sort of estranged from Zen, sort of lost my connection to Zen Center, partially because I felt really bad for Anna. I just felt like she was so shunned and nobody
really,
yeah, there were several people that really just iced her off, like somebody brought the downfall, it was her fault. And so it was very hard. Yeah, so right. So then so at some point I became lovers with this judge who was going to Zen Center in the city. And so I started going to Zazen with her. And then I started going, oh, well, they're okay over here now. Because, and I left out the part where I was on the board and that I helped do we had all these groups at Zen Center that I helped run for people to sort of discharge their dismay and their feelings about what had happened.
Yeah, I think we should state what had happened, because there might be someone listen to this that won't, well, what happened?
Well, it's not what I think happened was Dick Baker just led too much of a double life. He had too much of a kind of life out in the world with fancy people and not enough time at Zen Center, because what ended up happening was he had some affairs, and he had one affair that just exploded the whole place up.
Right.
And became very public. But what that brought to a head was that there were other things that he was doing that were not sustainable.
Right.
And having a fancy BMW, and when Zen Center said, we don't want to buy you a BMW, he got some rich guy to buy him a BMW. So
Earl McGrath, his oldest friend.
Right. So it was like he was working around in the Zen Center instead of working with the leadership, the rest of the leadership that wanted him to be more of a teacher and spend more time and not run around so much. And I think that it was sort of a lifestyle issue in some ways. And when he went too far, he couldn't say, oops. He couldn't say, okay, you're right. I need to straighten up a little bit and, cool my jets. He just went, no, this is my place. It's a soul what was it? What was
Corporation Soul.
Corporation Soul belongs to me, and it's my place, and I built it, and I did it, and everything's mine, and you can't take it away, and screw you, and I'm going to do it my own way. And then they said, well, come to Tassajara and practice for some months, and at least, just stay here. And he said, okay, but I'm going to walk to Tassajara. But then he doesn't walk to Tassajara. He basically has a party. He visits one friend who then drives him to the next place, who then drives him he never walked to Tassajara. He just went from one slumber party to another until he finally hiked in from not very far. So,
he stayed with Paul Lee some during that. That was on the way down there. And Paul was one of his best friends, too.
Yeah. So he had a good time. And then he said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do what you say. And so then finally the board just said, look, we're trying to work with you here. We want you to stay. But if you're not going to be willing to eat any crow after all the crap you've pulled, then no, you can't do it. And so then there was a big fight, and then he lost.
Well, I don't think the board ever made a decision. He made the decision. He just realized it was unacceptable to him. The situation that would be acceptable to Zen Center would not be acceptable to him. So he quit. He left.
I didn't realize that's how it went down. Yeah,
I think so.
I would have a hard time if I were him walking away from everything he built.
Yeah. Well, he's like a conceptual artist somewhat. People are messing with his creation. But he didn't do it by himself, and he couldn't have done it by himself. And it wasn't his to do. He had an overinflated sense of entitlement. But, he came back. He kept going. He started another group, and it had its ups and downs, mainly downs and ups, maybe. And then the German group and this and that. And he's done he's done very well. Now he's on good terms with Zen Center again.
Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, he's on cordial terms.
Yeah.
But I think the sticky wicket is that I don't think he's ever been able to see that he did something wrong. And
well, at times he'll say that. I mean, he said it to me.
Because what I got from him was that he realized that what he had done was unacceptable to other people, but he himself felt that what he had done was okay.
Oh, yeah. I would say that's maybe was the dominant feeling, but he turned 89 recently, and he had said to me at times things like, he had said, well, I really messed that up. All right, that was one thing he said. Just like I get things like that from him sometimes, where he just totally accepts he screwed up, just totally messed that up. But another time, when I ask him what would he like so and so, he no, he says it's so long ago now, and that's what I would say to him through the years. He was really obsessed. He would talk about it. Oh, I feel so bad about this and that, and I'd say, well, and I'd say it's already beyond the statute of limitations.
Yeah, that's right. He said to me one time, he said, I can't do anything bad anymore anyway. I've got prostate cancer. He said, I can't do anything. So he says, I'm pretty harmless at this point.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. When was that? When did you see him?
It was like the time before last that he came. It was before, not the time when he had the stroke, the time before that.
Oh, really? Really? He said, I was talking to him at Mayumi's down at the other house that Zen Center bought Mirror Beach, that eventually sold to Mayumi, and then where Peter and Wendy lived,
Yeah.
Wendy Johnson. And Peter Rednick, Wendy Johnson. I was down there talking to him at Mayumi's, and and I told him how totally wrecked I had gotten when Elin went to Taiwan. And he said, "Oh, yes, we'll destroy ourselves for women." Isn't that great?
Anyway, so then let's see, where are we now?
Well, wait a minute. You were on the board.
At some I got asked to be on the board around the time it was before the thing happened with Reb and the gun in the Pink Palace.
Right. Pink Palace. Oh, right. The Pink Palace. I forgot about the name of that. Right. So you were on the board. I was living, I had come back to live at Zen Center. I hadn't lived at Zen Center since 76. So what was 85? I was living at Green Gulch. Did you maybe come on the board then? Reb's thing was 87.
Yeah, that's when it was. And that's interesting that I was on the board then.
Yeah, and I was Tenzo, and the kitchen phone rang, and it was Reb. And I had to take care of a couple of things for him. And, something about his daughter and this and that, and I won't be there. And, but he didn't tell me why. It was just, and so that was my role in that.
Yeah, and you were at the board meeting when I exploded.
I didn't think you exploded. But tell us what you said.
I think I remember saying was something like, I was asking him, why did you take that gun there? And why did you feel you needed to do that? And he said, I don't know. And I mean, that just took my breath away. And I said, if you don't know what's motivating you, I don't know how you can be the abbot.
At this point, Marsha and I got into a bunch of details about this, and I decided I just would rather not include it. But anyway, like she said, she caused a big fuss at the board meeting, and I was there. I don't remember it being a big fuss. But as a result of what she said, the following happened.
Well, shortly after that, asked to have a meeting with me, and they sat me down and said that they really made a very strong request that I leave the board because I was creating dissent in the community.
A schism in the Sangha. That's one of the 3 unforgivable Buddhist sins, along with killing your parents and drawing blood from a Buddha.
I just felt like, I was very hurt by that. I felt very hurt. I felt cast out.
Bad.
And I took it to heart. And I did not have the starch to say, no.
Yeah.
I'm going to serve. I didn't, I just felt like I felt hurt, and I went fine. And I took my bat and ball and went home.
Oh, it's too bad. Well,
and and then I didn't come back again until later in the 90s.
Yeah. But I will say that when his 6 months of suspension was over, I brought up that we shouldn't have a single abbot and we should have term limits and stuff like that, and specifically talked about why I didn't think he should or anybody should be that. And so Zen Center did eliminate the single abbot and created term limits as a result of that. And I'm sure your contribution was still, the echoes of it were ringing and making that possible.
Well, the problem, though, with that also is that then I feel like Zen Center became leader phobic. And so then we had to have these, you know, either run the place by committee. So then it became very easy for any one person to undermine a plan.
Boy, ain't
You know?
that true. That's the power of a bureaucrat.
Yeah. And then the other problem was what we had with Baker Roshi that was so wonderful was here was this guy who had a vision, and he would have regular community meetings in all three places and share that vision and share the finances and say, okay, this time this is the thrust, and this is we're trying to make, you know, we're going to build the bakery and run these businesses, or we're going to do this. And then everybody had a way to get behind it or find their place to join the work.
Yeah.
And then after that, you know, I would watch Zen Center have this identity crisis. You know, are we a training place? Are we here to serve the lay people? Or what are we doing? And what are our priorities? And just a lot of, and there wasn't that clear vision that everybody could sort of get on board.
Yeah. 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 He saw
And I
himself
think
sort of as the CEO. Huh?
Yeah. Zen Center is still ailing from that in some ways.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the solution to that would be. I don't think they should have a single habit. It's that.
No, I don't know, but I just know I mean, there's pros and cons for both.
Yeah, there sure are. There sure are. Yeah, in terms of dealing with institutions, you really got to be careful about asking for permission to do something. You got to figure out how to do it because, like you said, it just takes one person to stop it. Before Katrinka and I left, I wanted to get all of the Suzuki Roshi's lecture audio and film digitized again. And
Wow.
I got together with Charlie Wilson, who had this great studio and the top state-of-the-art equipment and had been doing this with Rebs tapes, in student Rebs. And I talked to him about doing this, and he said, well, you need to write a grant for so. I said, I don't write grants. I'll just pay for it. Or Cuke Archives will pay for it. And which was just me, some money I had. And I went to, what was her name? Wonderful secretary. Was it Connie? Of Zen Center. And I told her. And she said, well, we have nothing in the budget for it. I said, you don't have to pay a cent. She said, oh, okay, take the tapes. Now, that moment was, I just said, thank you, Jesus. Because
You said take the what? Take the
the
what?
tapes. I can just take them. There's no money. I don't have to worry about budget. And we got all the tapes over to Charlie, and that began that whole thing. The chances of having a
The
secretary...
biggest gift to Zen Center that could happen is that you got these tapes.
The chances of having a secretary of Zen Center who's in charge of the archives, and they never did anything to do with that, that would say, sure, go on. That was a Hail Mary. The most likely response would be, I'll bring it up at a meeting in a month. Right? So I'm eternally grateful to her. I think she's passed on. I don't know if you have trouble remembering names and getting words wrong and things. It doesn't look like you do, but I definitely do.
I forget names. Names and nouns go first, you know.
Right. You know, Mark Alexander told me long ago, decades ago, proper nouns are the first to go, he said. You know, ChatGPT is so great for that. Because I can turn to it just like I would to Katrinka and say, what's that word that means so-and-so? And I just can't think of you know? All right. So there we are. Went through just a whole bit of talking about Zen Center boards, Zen Center crises, Where are you now?
Well, now let's see, we got through that. We went through those groups after Baker Roshi. Then I got sort of very strongly asked to leave the board, and I acquiesced and sort of just didn't get him. I just wasn't around for about 5 or 7, or I don't know how many years, 8 years. And then I
Oh,
got involved with a woman who was sitting in the city, who lived in the city. So I started commuting over and sitting, going to Zazen in the morning at City Center. And then I got together with Michael Wenger, who I was involved with these group meetings, was also helping with these group meetings that we had after Baker Roshi left. So I asked him to for some help. I said, I want to get back into my practice. I don't quite know. I'm not quite sure how I want to do that. And he said, I'll help you. And so he kind of took me under his wing, and he would have me over, and we would have long conversations about practice. And he basically started training me. And it was under him that I was shuso. And he was just so encouraging and so kind and so helpful. And I had some sessions here at my house. I had I think 1 or 2 sessions, and he slept and had everybody sleeping around. And Daya came to one of those, Diane
oh,
Goldschlag.
yeah.
And they
Wow.
were, so we did all this stuff that was and I helped him sort of with Dragon's Leap and got on his board for a while.
Oh,
And
really? Wonderful. You
yeah,
know Chuck
yeah,
Chuck
yeah,
Gould? Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then I fell in love with Christina Lehnherr, who was Tonto at the time. And so I remember Michael, who really supported that relationship. He actually got us together in some ways. And I remember at one point saying, now she's getting all the attention I would have gotten if you hadn't got, that he could have used at that time. And so then I was spending more time with Christina and less time with Michael, although we were doing his laundry a lot so that he would always wear a clean hapari because he was having so Christina's sort of part laundress. Anyway, so she'd do his laundry, and I'd pick his laundry up, and she'd do it, and I'd bring it back. And so he would have lots of clean laundry all the time and be always wearing a clean clothes because he would sort of wear what he ate sometimes. So,
So
but
so
we used to have these conversations. We'd be in the hall, and he had to do, because of his Parkinson's, he would have his legs up against the wall because he had to do that to kind of stretch them. And so I'd sit the opposite way with my legs up on the wall, and we'd have these long conversations. We were both stretching our
wow.
legs. I
Wow.
mean, it was like, it was a lot like hanging out with Harry Roberts. It was like you just did whatever had with him, whatever he was doing. So
Hmm.
I with him, and I'd lie down on the hall with my feet up in the air and have long conversations with him. And he was just so regular and not formal with me, and
Yeah.
just very soulful and encouraging. And he's the one who said, I said, so what do you want me to be a teacher? So what do I need to do? What do you want me to do? He said, you don't worry about the fascicles. Don't worry about the scriptures. Just there's one main thing that you're supposed to do. And I said, what's that? He said, encourage people's practice. That's really the main thing you need to do.
Oh, that's so good.
And I just thought, and I loved him for that, because it made me respect him so much that
Hmm.
that's where he was coming from. And the rest was kind of window dressing. You could use it or not use it, but the main thing was just encourage them to stay in the inquiry, you know? And and so that's what sort of dovetailed with the somatic experiencing, because somatic experiencing is about encouraging people to be curious about the subtleties of themselves, about their subtle body, about their unconscious habits, to be really curious about where did that come from? What's that about?
Is
And
is that the first time you've mentioned somatic experience in this
well,
talk?
I mentioned it when you asked me what am I doing, and I said I'm doing work with people with trauma, and the name of the of the work that I do is called somatic experiencing, and it was developed by Peter Levine, and I've been studying it for the last 13 years. And I've taken all the trainings, I've taken all the advanced courses, and I've assisted in other people's trainings, and so I've gotten to where it's more embodied. And the more I do it, the more I feel like Buddhist practice and somatic experiencing are they dovetail. They're part of each other in the sense that when you when you complete moving through a trauma and that sort of thing, then you are much closer to your own true nature, and you're much less attached to how you appear. You're much more interested in congruence. You're much more interested in developing enough stability, and where you realize that the issue is your state of mind. It's not controlling the situation. It's not trying to have control over different aspects and then you're going to be happy, or if you have enough stuff then you'll be happy. The same truth of somatic experiencing is that it's about your state of mind. And when you learn how to stabilize your nervous system and you stop having unconscious habits of that lead to, you know, people being bigoted and mean and scared and all kinds of things, then the natural thing is kindness. The natural thing is generosity. That's what comes through. And you realize that's an easier way to live when you move in accord with the way things are instead of arguing with reality. And so to me, they support each other, and they're very happy making, is my feeling.
Oh, that's really good. Good to hear. It reminds me of what Suzuki would say about practice and zazen. He felt that precepts, which is, you know, like you say, being good, being kind, naturally will, following the precepts naturally will flow out of practice, zazen.
You realize, you know, when you want to feel good, be generous.
Yeah.
You want to feel really, be kind. You're going to feel so good from doing that. I did it. Christina and I, every year we would do a practice. And the first year, this was like 20 years ago. I did a whole year of practicing appreciation. So wherever I went, I looked for what I could appreciate about the situation I was in. It could be a color or a flower or somebody's face. It didn't matter. Whatever it was, just notice something you can appreciate. That made me feel so good. I did it for a whole nother year. It just made me so happy. And then we did generosity. And then I learned so much about generosity. It wasn't just about giving stuff away or giving people my time or doing favors. It was like I learned you can drive your car generously. You can move your cart through the market generously. You can interpret other people's behavior generously. And I had a great time with that. And I just thought, this makes me feel really good. I'm really enjoying this. So I follow the paramitas, the precepts. They're they really lead you to having a good time.
Wow. Wow. And is Peter Levine still teaching?
He's still teaching. He's on his way to retiring. He's sort of this year, I think, is going to be his last trainings that he's going to do.
Where's he located?
It's hard to say. I'm not quite sure where he lives because he spends the summers in Switzerland. And I've gone to a couple of his trainings at Rigi, which are right near Felsentor,
Ah,
on the same lake. And he has said that he's probably not going to do so much. He's getting older and he's getting tired. But I'm not sure where he lives the rest of the year. I haven't been very fascinated with where he is or what he does or who he lives with. I just like his come to get the stuff.
but that is the right attitude. That's what teachers want. He said, they don't want you. Suzuki said they're just, people would just want to follow you, copy your faults. And there's an old saying I remember stumbling across in India that you should live 2 valleys away from your guru.
Don't get too close.
Yeah, they're all.
I have to say, Michael let me get very close and see all of his foibles and flaws. And yet, what I also saw was his pure heart and his generous teaching. And they all came together with all the mess.
Yeah. Are you in touch with him over
Yes,
at
a
Enzo?
little bit. Just a little bit. I saw him. He had a little show at Enzo Village.
Right.
He's in the memory center. He is, his Parkinson's has gotten quite advanced, and he's still there, but he's not fully. He's
Yeah.
a little.
Darn, I wish I could visit him. There's a
Yeah.
few things I'd like to be back in America for a little bit.
Yeah, he would love it if you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, maybe when I get back from Switzerland, we can set up a little Zoom. I'll
Yeah.
bring my computer and we can Zoom all together.
Yeah, that's true. That I've had a couple of podcast talks with him and Barbara.
Oh, good.
I think one of them we didn't use. It was just too
His speech is
difficult.
he's a little hard to understand.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I'm going to talk about it because his false teeth don't fit at all and they're always falling out of his mouth and there's no wonder he's having trouble talking. But I don't understand why he
That's terrible.
fit or something. I don't understand. Because it seems that, you get older and things shrivel. And so he needs to get them refit.
That's very interesting.
It's too big. So
Yeah.
they're constantly falling out of his mouth.
Wow.
So that doesn't.
Suzuki had false teeth, and he lost a set. He lost a pair. We went to pee off the side of the road when I'm not sure who was bringing him in, and his false teeth came out when he was peeing and rolled down the hill. They couldn't find him, and so he went to his cabin and wouldn't come out until his new false teeth were brought to him.
Oh, wow.
I mean, his other pair.
Yeah, that's people feel strongly about it. I remember George Lane I almost caught him without his teeth and he almost went apoplectic. He just the idea that somebody could see him without his teeth was like not possible.
Yeah, I sympathize. Now, you a couple of things we've talked about before that are really interesting is one, you were at Felsentor, Vanya Palmer's practice place up on above Lake Lucerne, I think on Rigba or something mountain.
Rigi.
Rigi?
Yeah, something.
Rigi. And you saw the fantastic Japanese type
Yeah,
Zendo that Paul Disco's crew and Michael Michael Kunin had built. And you visited with Paul. Why don't you just take us across those two things?
well, going up to Felsentor was very interesting because it was so fancy. It's so fancy. And but it was just wonderful to sit in that Buddha hall and in that Zendo and and then Christina did an ordination, and I just loved the light. I loved the feeling in that building, and I was just so glad I got to go up there. Such an extraordinary place. And Emila was up there, and so I hung out with Emila for a while, and
Oh,
that was fun.
wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, we had a nice time, and she was just lovely, and she would speak German in a way that would make me understand what she was saying. It was really good. I appreciated it.
Mm.
And so then, let's see, the other piece was Paul. I went to visit Paul. He moved 6 months ago to Hawaii, and he's on the Big Island in I can't even remember.
He
It's near.
moved. He moved
He's on the west side, and he's.
in 2 weeks. It'll be a year ago.
Oh wow! And then he said, you know, that his son wanted him to move closer, and his first wife Ruth was there, and the son was there, and they were like a mile down the road, and he got these 5 acres or so, and that he was going to grow chicken feed,
Mm-hmm.
and I got there, and it was like I'd been visiting Mayumi on the Kona side for a few days. And so I took this, it's a 2 hour drive to go up there.
Mm.
And Paul tends to crash between 12 and 4. And so I said, okay, then I better get there in the morning. So I got there at 10, and he was there, and he comes out and greets me, and then and motions to me, come over here. And we go over to this shed, and he's taken half of this shed and turned it into a 2-seat Zendo. And the first thing he does is have me offer incense at his altar and bow in.
Mm.
And that sort of set the tone for the rest of the visit. And
Mm.
so we sat down and we had tea, and I had brought contraband bakery goods that is the woman that is in the house, I think is girlfriend of his son's. Anyway, she is a vegan. And so this was like I was bringing really bad things into that house.
Oh, you mean there were
You
dairy
know,
products in it?
butter and cream and
Oh,
cookies and, bad things.
well,
So anyway, so we're having fun and he's enjoying them. And then she comes home, and all of a sudden everything goes back in the box and the box goes out of the. I'm not really supposed to be eating these things. He confesses to me. And I go, okay. And she goes, no, he's not. And so then we put the bakery goods back in the box, and I put them out on the porch, and we continue our conversation. And I get, uh, and like you, we talked a lot about mutual friends and old times and Green Gulch, and then we talked a lot about Japanese architecture and Chinese architecture and the history of both of them and how they're the same and how they're different. And I mean, it was fascinating. And and then he showed me how he's going to build. He has a tarp out on the side of this cottage, and he says that's where I'm going to put my monk's hut, and it's 12 feet by 12 feet, and he shows me these little plan of, he just draws on a piece of paper how he's going to do this with a composting toilet and a samovar out outside, like an outside kitchen, and how he's going to have a little stove and it's tatami, and that's where he wants to live. He wants to have that be his living space.
Yeah, and
So
this is the guy who was in charge of the $200 million Larry Ellison estate with all those buildings and.
well, and also his last wife, he built this amazing loft in Chelsea for her and a house in Sonoma and really luxurious kinds of places. And for himself, though, I mean, his practice is so sincere. He just wants to practice. You can just, you could feel it in every
Yeah,
cell of it.
yeah, yeah. Well, Richard used to say a priest has to be vertical in society, you know. And Paul has been very vertical. He's been with the richest and the poorest. I mean, he raised a diaper baby, built that wonderful kitchen at Tassajara, and the
I just
Linda's.
hold him in very, very high esteem because the proof to me was when I left there, and I was only supposed to stay 2 hours. I ended up staying almost 4. He was so gracious and he invited me back and said he'd give me his bedroom. I could just stay at, please come back. And he also, the feeling, the proof of it was I felt I left with such a full heart. I felt so enriched, so fed in some way that I just felt full of goodness and love and glad that I shared that practice with him. And the intimacy that comes from just having all those years out that come out of that context so that when you meet somebody else who's also been practicing all this time, there's a resonance that you can't get any other way. And it's intimate and it's wonderful. It's just wonderful. That's all. And I feel it with you and I feel it with other people that have been practicing for decades. It's just something about that it's something shared that has nothing to do with anybody's personalities or anything like that.
Oh, that's very well said. Now, Michael Wenger,
Okay. Go ahead.
is it him? He gave you lay entrustment or something like that?
He gave me lay entrustment. He wanted to make me a priest, and we argued about it for a few years, really. And I really didn't want to be a priest. I said, I'm not interested in all those forms. I'm interested in lay practice. I'm interested in the application of the precepts and Buddhist teachings to washing the dishes and washing my clothes and living my life in the worldly world.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in working with the people that are doing that also want to practice. That's what interests me. And that's what I like to talk about, and that's what I like to do. And so we came to terms, and he said, okay, then I have to finish you off somehow. So we're going to do we're going to lay and trust you.
And yeah.
Because he wanted to transmit me, and in order to transmit me, I have to be a priest. And I said, I don't care about that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I certainly understand that.
And I said, we already have one priest in the family. I've got Christina.
Yeah, yeah, you've got a
she's
former abbot of
priest.
Zen Center there. How's she doing?
She's doing great. She's going to do the January practice period. She
Where?
says this is in the city. That's her swan song, she said. And so she's got a few priests that she's training, and so
Where? Where?
and
At the city, in the city?
yeah. But there's one that's down at Tassajara. They have all gone down to Tassajara, and she's done a practice period or two down there that she's run, but then so now she isn't going to do that. She's going to be up in the city and run that practice period and or lead that practice period, and so then she'll have a shuso and a couple of priests that are also going to be in that training.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, that's neat. And I can't remember if we talked about Mako before. But do you know Mako?
I know Mako, and Mako's it's so clear. She's just going to be a Tassajara. That's where it works for her.
Yeah, yeah. She was just here for a couple of weeks with her husband. That was great. She was here a couple of years ago too, for a month, and really
I'm
interesting.
gonna Yeah, go ahead. You finish.
But it's interesting talking to her about Zen Center's situation with having to be very careful about so many things because of how litigious society is, and it's
It's difficult because, especially in the climate that we've been in the last several years, that we've got a president that will sue people at the drop of a hat. And I do feel like some of that stuff gets cultivated in certain environments. And so now people just sue nobody. You go to Europe, nobody's suing anybody. Somebody falls down at somebody's house, they don't sue them. They just go to they treat each other reasonably. It's just crazy how much what people will make a lawsuit out of.
Yeah, yeah, America is just, having lived in Japan, living here, you never hear about that. I mean, you do hear about lawyers, but
yeah, but people aren't suing each other left and right in Switzerland, and they're not, they're just not.
Wait, repeat that.
I said people are not suing each other right.
Okay. I didn't hear the not.
Yeah, they're not. They're not doing that.
Yeah.
No, they don't even think about it.
No. Yeah, America's got a problem. America's got so many problems.
Yeah.
I pray for for America's deliverance from the very deep confusion it's in.
Well, yeah, I mean, what we do is we donate what we can. We go and we demonstrate and we write letters and we do all the things we can do to fight the good fight. And then it's really important to shift your focus and not dwell on that. You do what you can do, and then after you're done doing everything you can do, go have a good time. Go enjoy.
Yeah, indeed. Well, look, Marsha, is there anything that we've left out?
Yes. I want to tell you that I cannot express how grateful I am that you are doing all of this archival work and that you're getting all this history and preserving so much of Suzuki Roshi's teachings. I cannot thank you enough, and I feel like it is so very, very important for this community, but for the world. I just think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing, and I'm very, very grateful to you for doing it. And thank you.
Well, my pleasure. And these days, I'm dealing a lot with Suzuki still, but I've really, really focused on everybody else. Because it's all one big story.
Well, you should let me interview you once, and we do a podcast where you are the subject.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk to you again privately, but I want to record it for unpublished Zen Center history stuff to clarify some things that I don't want to put out. Unfortunately, I feel that Dicky Ducky and Reb, it has historical importance.
Yes, but I think it's very important to talk about these things in ways that is balanced and respectful. They're human beings, and their flaws get to show more brightly because of the positions they were in, but they certainly aren't any more disgusting than anybody else's, as far
Yeah,
as I'm concerned.
yeah,
So I feel like that's an unfortunate aspect of being a leader is that you get the Klieg light on you in a way that really distorts what's so. And
yeah,
both of these people are incredible teachers, and I think Reb is also pretty much a stand-up guy, and he
yeah,
has
yeah.
evolved and grown, and he's a treasure. And so I would like to know that however the story gets told, that gets included.
Yes, it's something that you hear now and then. What the worst thing somebody did didn't it shouldn't define them. You know,
Right. You don't define somebody by the worst thing they did, and you
yeah,
don't define them by the best thing they did. They're just, they're people,
right,
and lucky enough to be in a situation that where they took advantage of an opportunity and used it to the benefit of other people. They were lucky.
yeah,
They got, they participated in it, but they didn't do it by themselves.
right, right. My observation of Reb through the years, he was Bob Halpern's best friend, and Bob and I were best friends, is that Reb arrived and he and Bob were really close. But Bob and I were screw-offs, and Reb, from the day he arrived, was single-mindedly focused on practice. And so I say that he was an older student than us the day he arrived, and he's maintained that. He's always been that way.
Very disciplined.
Yeah, he's he hasn't led a complicated life, which both Bob and I have. He hasn't been distracted. I mean, he's got his distractions and everything, but not. I mean, his focus and his like what do they say? There's no thing Suzuki used to say it sometimes, like one iron. I guess Dogen said it, like one iron rail, or how would Dogen say it? He couldn't have said that. They didn't have iron rails. Anyway, I think I've said enough.
Yes, he was very single-minded and very disciplined, and he never took his eye off the ball for years.
Yeah. And Richard said to me once about Reb, he said, no one, people bond with Reb the way they don't bond with anybody else. And Reb has had so many good students and so many devoted students and had relationships with people that aren't his, he isn't their main teacher, that his the number of people he's taught and related to that way is just so extensive. Well,
He transmitted Christina.
Oh, is that right? Wow. Wow. Yeah. So, well, we're probably at a point that we should say farewell.
Yes. And I'm planning. I'm going to be going to New Zealand next year, so I'm going to figure a way to come to see you on the way or on the way back.
Oh, please do.
But no, you don't have sargassum, huh? You get sargassum?
What's that?
It's a kind of kelp that comes up onto the shore and stinks to high heaven.
Oh, it's
They
there.
have it.
Where's
Yeah.
that? Where's that
They
happening?
have it in Belize, it's a problem. It's a problem to some extent in Mexico, southern Mexico. There's a problem with it in where was the other place? I can't remember now. Oh, yeah, I think they have some of they don't have it in Hawaii, I don't think.
Hmm. No,
Belize. They have it in Belize.
but I've never heard of it.
Vietnam. They have it in not is it
Vietnam?
not Vietnam, it's
Thailand? I haven't
Thailand.
heard of it in Thailand.
Yeah, we went there. We went there because we were visiting some friends that lived in Luang Prabang, and they also had another beach house in Thailand. And we went over there, and there was all this sargassum along, and it was stinking to high heaven. It was really
Oh,
disgusting.
I've never even heard of it. My God.
It has to do with climate change. It's just part of
Yeah.
the mess.
Yeah. Oh, climate change. Hey, a brief comment on climate change. What do you think?
I think, yes, I think we may have easily passed the tipping point and things are moving exponentially. And if we don't stop the trucks and the planes, then it's going to continue.
Well, wait a minute. Now, the EPA, which we can
Yeah.
trust because it's our government, has just come out and said that greenhouse gases are not harmful and they're fine. We don't have to worry about them. We can get rid of all the regulations. You're
Yeah.
probably aware of that.
I've heard I've heard some bullshit like that. No, that's we could see it. I mean, look what's going on. I mean, we're having earthquakes and tsunamis and extreme weather like we've never
Yeah.
had. It's going to continue and it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
Flint has had nothing but all summer long, but rainstorms and big swings from 15 degrees to 30 degrees centigrade. I mean, just big. It's the weather's not the same.
yeah. 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 You're obviously a citizen of the world saying centigrade. All right. Well,
All
yeah.
right, Darla, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You take care. I'm raising my hands to it. Got you. I have trouble raising my left arm. I got to do something about that. But here,
Do
I can
do
get it.
something about it.
Yeah.
But thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Take
Deep
care.
bow.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye bye, dear.
Bye-bye.
So thanks a lot, Marsha Angus. That was great. I really enjoyed talking to you. we talked 2.5 hours, then I cut a bunch of stuff out. As we mentioned in it, we had had a prior talk of the same length, and there was just so much private stuff. We just know too much about too many people, and we said too many. I just didn't want to go over it and figure out what to keep in and not, so we just did it again. Also, we enjoy talking with each other. It was great talking with you, Marsha, and I look forward to the next time. And until then, this is DC Poobah of Kook Audio and Kook Archives, coming to you from Sleepy Sanur with Doggy Bandita, Feline Manis, and dear lovely Katrinka. And we're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.